Hey, Paul Clef here for GuitarLessonsForBeginnersOnline.net. In this lesson today, we're going to talk about learning to use and control distortion in your guitar playing. Distortion or overdrive is used in many heavy metal and hard rock guitar styles. It gives the guitar a really thick sound, it sounds really warm, and it also gives your playing a real fluid feel. It sounds like this. This is guitar with overdrive or distortion. You can hear the thickness of the sound. Most beginning guitar players have trouble learning to control distortion. It does make your playing sound really cool. It sounds big and it sounds warm, but there's a couple things that you need to learn to do in order to kind of reel things in and make it so that your guitar playing doesn't sound like a great big mess. So what happens when we play distorted guitar? It kind of takes on a life of its own. We hit a chord like this A chord, and it just keeps going. The guitar just wants to continue to go and go and go. So what we need to do is to learn to mute. And how we're going to look at this first is we're going to learn to mute in between chords using our pick hand. So I'm going to play this A chord, and then I'm going to play a G chord and a D chord. And first I'm going to play it without using any muting at all. Notice how strings continue to ring out and everything kind of blends together and sounds like a mess. Now I'm going to use the side of my pick hand to mute in between the chords. So I'll play the A chord, give it a mute, play the G chord, give it a mute, play the D chord, give it a mute, and you'll hear how it cleans your sound up. Can you hear the difference? So that's our basic pick hand mute, and it really cleans things up in between chords. It makes your sound, it makes everything more defined. It kind of works like a damper pedal on a piano. Now, the second way that we're going to mute using distortion is we're going to play a chord and then we're going to play an open string note. Now I'm not going to mute the chord, I'm going to hit the chord, but then I'm going to place my hand down and use a mute on the open string. I'm going to do this using an A chord. So here's my A chord. And then now there's my open A string. So my hand comes up to play the chord. And then mute on the open string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So you have to get used to making this small motion with your hand. The hand comes up when you play the chord and comes back down and gives you this palm muting sound with your hand resting right near the bridge of your guitar. Now if I don't use the palm mute on that, listen to how it sounds. It's going to sound dirty, nasty, and messy. I'm going to play the chord, and then I'm going to play the notes on the open A string, but you're going to hear everything ringing together. Once again, here it is with muting. Notice how clean and tight it sounds. Many guitar players get into the habit of just practicing their guitar either with a clean sound or not plugged in. So they'll sit and play things like this. Which sounds okay, but you don't get the full effect of the distortion when you've actually got it on. So this doesn't recreate the sound that you need to try to control. So if you do play in a heavy metal or hard rock style, you actually need to practice playing the guitar using distortion. You have to get used to that feeling and used to the idea of muting in order to control that so that you don't have a mess. So this type of muting that we're looking at today comes down to using your pick hand. The first version that we used was muting in between the chords by resting your pick hand on the strings. Here's our A chord, G chord, D chord. And the second type of muting we looked at uses an open string or pedal tone in between strums on a chord, like this. A chord and then the open A string. So you want to practice using distortion. Take simple chord progressions like this, or just a simple idea where you have one chord and an open string, and get used to the movements that you need to make. They're going to become second nature for you after you practice them for a bit. The final thing in this lesson I want you to be aware of is when you do play with distortion, take your guitar volume and just roll it off in between. One of the things that beginners do is they'll let their guitar sit here like this when they're not playing, and these strings just want to go. You can get rid of that by rolling your volume off in between your practice time or when you're playing with others or in a band. So always roll your volume off when you're not playing. It's not really technically muting, but it's really helpful, and your friends will love you because they don't have to listen to your guitar strings ring out endlessly. You can click on the link in the description below to get another free video that will help you with some additional muting techniques. So click the link, go check out the video, use the muting, practice it so that you can clean your playing up. Muting is one of those things that makes a huge difference in your playing. It makes you sound amateurish when you don't, and you'll sound way more professional much faster when you do use muting. So click on the link, check out the video, and practice hard.